All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. Welcome, everybody. My name's Brian Peck. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Mazevo. It's great to see everybody on the call today. See many of you that have been to previous Mazevo Connects that we've hosted. So it's great to see you again. And for those of you that this is your first time, welcome. These are something that we do roughly about every month, give or take there, and on a variety of topics. We came up with this idea a few months ago when we did our first one. And, we kind of thought, wouldn't it be great if we could kind of bring everybody together, share ideas, just best practices, and kind of have some fun while we're doing it. So they've been great so far. The feedback's been awesome. Everybody seems like they get a lot out of them. So we appreciate that. If there's any topics that you'd be interested in discussing or covering in future Mazevo Connects, let us know. Or if you want to be adventurous and actually share some of your wisdom with the greater Mazevo community, we'd love to have that too. So anyways, that's what we're going to be doing today. I've got everybody muted right now. So just feel free as we're going through this, if any questions come up or anything like that, there's a few of us that are monitoring the chat. Just go ahead and put your questions in there. We are going to have some time, I believe, at the end for Q&A. So at that point, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your questions, feel free. But until then, go ahead and put your questions in the chat as we're going through, and we'll monitor that and get to those that way. So we're super excited today. We've got a couple of guests here with us, a Mazevo customer from University of Iowa, Christy and Katie, who will be presenting on tasks. And tasks are one of those things, a few of you are using those in Mazevo, but not everybody does. So they're going to be sharing their knowledge on tasks and how that works for them. So before we do that, I thought it would be great to introduce Dean Evans, our founder here. And he's actually going to give you a little bit of the secret history of tasks and, just share some background that way. So Dean, I'll let you go ahead and take it away here.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming today. Just thought I'd give you the secret background on tasks here. So in EMS, I think everybody that used EMS remembered them as reminders. And if you go far enough back to the 90s, literally, 20 years ago, we actually called them ticklers. And we were doing a presentation for Anderson Consulting, and they wanted to roll out EMS globally. And I was in this room, and all of these people from all over the world are sitting in this room. This was pre-Zoom, so they were actually in the room. And I was talking about ticklers. And somebody's like, is there a way you can change that name? I'm like, well, no, that's the name. It's coded that way. It's coded as ticklers. And they're like, we really can't have it. This was a lady from the UK, and there was a gentleman from France there. They're like, well, we really can't have that name tickler. I'm like, well, what's the problem with it? Well, it means something that we really just shouldn't have in business software. So it took them forever to tell me what it was. It was offline when they told me. I'm like, I think we can get it changed. We'll change it to reminders. But if you were to look under the covers in EMS today, it's still called ticklers. It's just what everybody saw on the screens was changed to reminders. So there's your short history. So it's gone through a couple of name changes, ticklers to reminders. And now in Mazevo, we call them tasks. So with that, Brian, I'll turn it back over. That's your short history.
There we go. Awesome. Thank you, Dean. Okay, great. Well, let's go ahead and get things started here. So I'd like to introduce our presenters today from the University of Iowa. I've got Katie Martin, who's the reservation coordinator over there for University of Iowa, and Christy Finger, who's the assistant director of reservations and outdoor space. And Katie's going to start off here and kind of give us a little background. So Katie, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you here. Oh, and you are muted, by the way, Katie, just so you know.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. As Brian said, my name is Katie Martin, and I am here with my colleague Christy Finger. We are happy to talk about using Mazévo Tasks to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. All right, we will advance here. Okay. So wanted to just give a little bit of background on our building, our office. I've been in my role for almost 4 years, and Christy has been in her role here in event services for over 4 years, but has been with the IMU, the Iowa Memorial Union, for 25-ish years. So got quite a storied history. So always love her context provided. So some background on the IMU. The University of Iowa is a public institution with over 30,000 students. And our building, the IMU, which is this nice red brick building here along the river, is our student union. So in our building, we have 15 meeting rooms, which are free for student organizations and departments to use. And then we do have a minimal rental fee for public organizations. We have 5 large event spaces, which we charge for everyone. We have a tiered rental fee for each of those spaces. And then we have one chapel, our Danforth Chapel, which is just off the side of the picture there. And that's free for student organizations and departments, and then a rental fee for the public. Typically, a lot of wedding ceremonies happen there. Also here in the IMU, we have an in-house AV specialist and in-house AV equipment that our groups can rent from us. And then we also have catering. So university catering is a separate department from our office in the event planning reservation side of things, but they work exclusively as the food and beverage provider here in our building. And I know some of them are on our call today, so glad to have you all here. All right, again, a little bit more background. We, as the IMU, used EMS for over 20 years, so familiar with that system. And then we transitioned to Mazevo at the end of spring into the summer this year. So we were heavy users of reminders, as Dean talked about, in EMS. And although we've been in Mazevo for the semester now, we're still kind of working on finding our daily groove with tasks. So certainly not experts, but we are excited to kind of share how we use them and are certainly open to suggestions and questions as well. We thought some room usage comparison would be interesting to have for some of our spaces. We use the handy analytics tool in Mazevo to quickly get these details. So really glad for that option to do. So kind of looking at pre-COVID and now our meeting rooms, over 5,000 between August and December of fall of 19, and just about 3,000 for this fall semester. Our large event spaces, got a little asterisk there. Something that we learned when we transitioned from EMS to Mazevo was to be, this is a word of caution to anyone who's maybe a prospective Mazevo customer, we didn't bring over one of our large meeting rooms that we should have. It was a combo room in EMS. So we lost some of the data that would have contributed to that 391 bookings in fall of 19. So I'm assuming that number is quite a bit higher. And then Danforth Chapel was pretty even between fall of 19 and then fall of 21. All right, so on to the fun things for our presentation today. Why do we use tasks? Simply, they are reminders to us. So if there is anything that needs a follow-up related to event planning, we create a task. So at the end of the presentation, Christy will get into Mazevo and share her screen and show examples of events that have tasks. So we'll be able to share a lot of good information that way. But some examples of things that we might choose to create a task for would be event approval. So all of our student organization events that are more complex will need some sort of event information form approval in a separate system. So we'll create a task to just follow up on that progress to make sure they're good to go. Payments, as I mentioned, most of our spaces are large spaces, and then anything for the public would have a room rental fee. So making sure we collect payments on time, sharing information about that, getting room setup information for our larger spaces, setting reminders for finalizing audio-visual equipment needs. We have parking meters in Mazevo that we have set up as rooms, and so we'll set a task for that to just make sure we have those spaces requested then with our parking and transportation office to make sure those are properly held aside for the groups that need them. Something we use pretty heavily in EMS and are looking forward to working with more here in Mazevo is we often would create a detailed checklist for large annual events like our large dance marathon fundraiser or orientation throughout the summer, just making sure that the appropriate approvals for campus partners are received. So along those lines, we might have a task set if we have an event that occurs annually. Well, at the end of that event one year, then we'd make sure that we have the next year or maybe the next 5 years if we go that far out booked. And also with annual events, oftentimes if it's a student organization event, there would be a different student that is the main contact for planning each year. So we would set a task a few months before that event is scheduled to take place so that we reach out to that organization to determine who would be the contact for that event. And then how do we use tasks? So we recommend setting your default start page in Mazevo to be day at a glance. This is helpful so that you can, see a variety of things. One of those things that's listed on the day at a glance is tasks. So any of your tasks that are listed, you can see that number, click into that, and then expand to get more information that way. Christy will talk more about the different task types that we have set up and maybe what would trigger a task to be created. But some other examples might be, I mentioned room deposit or payment for the public. So anytime we have a public organization event that is created, a task will automatically pop up to show that payment is due so that we remember to click payment within our window there. This is kind of a simple one, but miscellaneous. So there could just be a manual task related to anything event related, and you might need to manually put that in. So that could be done under that task tab. I mentioned the parking and transportation. You can do a trigger by location. So we would select the location. I don't remember if it's under room or room tag for the parking meters, but that would automatically be created anytime we have a booking in that space created. And then another trigger we have is event type. So we have event type of a wedding reception. So if we have something created under a wedding reception, then a task would automatically be populated to make sure we receive that room deposit, to make sure we're following up with the customer to receive that. And just a little fun thing we wanted to put in as a wish list item while we're on the call with you all. If someday down the line there are possibilities to have multiple trigger options or logic, to pick an organization type and a location, for example, you could tailor your tasks even more. Okay, some benefits of using tasks. They help us just keep track of details within reservations or bookings. So all of the examples that I previously mentioned. And it also helps inform other staff members of the current status of these tasks. So, other staff members can open up a reservation, open up an event and see where we're at with receiving payment, where we're at with making sure that AB details are determined. So then we can kind of help hold each other accountable and help out if there are any larger questions too. Christy, I don't remember, is this the handoff to you? Okay.
All right, so tips and advice. Starting out with just one or two simple things that you can set up to just kind of get your feet wet and figure out how to set them up and make sure they work. And then as it's like, oh, they could kind of build and feed off of one another. You can obviously add more as you get used to using them and get your team used to using them. And as Katie said, using day at a glance as your start page when you log in to Mazevo is very helpful. And then manage tasks. We've can go in and see who else. Maybe we have student staff who are in Mazevo doing things for us, and we'll sometimes tag multiple people for a particular task. So who can ever get to it first? Great. But we can see into the future. Ironically, I'm caught up pretty much on tasks assigned to me, but I can go in and look and see what what I have coming up next week or this month, and if there's anything I can maybe do ahead. So that's a nice feature. It was something, all of our tasks are in reminders in EMS. You could see, you could just click everybody and whatever you needed to see. So there is a way of also doing that here in tasks with Mazevo. So yeah, things to be aware of whenever you're doing it, just to be very intentional. If you do set up a task to have a trigger, they're very easy to set up, but it took a couple of times to try things out to figure out what made it actually trigger. But being very intentional about that will help simplify things in the long run. So, all right, so we will go share my screen here. All right, not the one I wanted to share. There we go. Are you seeing? Are we good? Okay. So I pulled some events here to show you kind of where tasks and how we use them. This is one that we have set up here showing the tasks. This showing the one that has already been completed. This is one we were referring to earlier about contacting maybe an advisor or a department or student leadership to find out who is actually going to be working on a particular event. Mirage is an annual event. It's a big deal. So we just make sure that we're contacting them or reaching out ahead of time. It's because sometimes in our field, sometimes student orgs don't have the best transition. They don't know when to get started. So it's to simplify things for a lot of people if we can maybe reach out first. And then this is another example of extending out an annual event. We can schedule out annual events up to 5 years out. So once 1 year is over, we'll book out that next final year, that 5th year out. So again, just a reminder, because it was great when Katie and I both came in, that the person in my role previously had very extensive tasks or reminders in EMS. So it was also a great transition tool to really see what needed to happen. This particular one, we have event information forms again for approvals for our student organizations, but this could be again for anything. But it shows our communication timeline or what we have done, and other people can go in and see, again, for context and background, or if there needs to be follow-up by our student, she can go in and read, oh, Chrissy sent a reminder today, I don't need to do that, or probably can even wait another day or two to do that. So I love the hover feature. You don't actually have to click into it, only unless you want to edit something. This one was kind of an example of an oops on our part. It was an event that was a department scheduled. We forgot to set a task. So once Katie was aware of that, she went ahead and set that up, again, creating that communication timeline so that we can go in and follow up tomorrow. Here's the due date. It's nice that, you know, you can, when it's done, you can click complete, and that's when that red line shows up in there, and they just don't go away. You still have the timeline of when things were happening and the history in there, which is great. No, this is an example. This was multiple steps we can have in here. We've created multiple task reminders that can be triggered. We used to just do everything in one reminder in EMS, and it got to be pretty long and to read through everything. So we tried to break things up a little bit more in Mazevo. So this one, we have a request form that student orgs have to fill out. And so that got done. As you can read here, it was received, but now we need to get more information. Our student just went in and kind of did the next step about having that event information form to get approvals, where maybe we should have broken that up and just completed this particular task and created a new one for an event information form. So we're still figuring it out. So, and then I just came up with this test event to kind of show you the trigger in the booking. This again is for our parking meters, but again, it can be set for anything. And we have parking meters, so by location, it will set this trigger. So whenever I booked this particular space or room, it created this particular trigger or triggered this task, excuse me. And it has it start the day that the booking was created. So, and you can set those parameters whenever you create the tasks. So you can streamline this and customize it to whatever fits your needs, which is awesome. So, excuse me, sorry. So here's all of our tasks. We don't use all of these. Some of them we got created when we had the sandbox and we were in that environment, and so they are still there. But we've got several in here, but they are attached to different things. You can see here that they're attached again, either by organization. This one again was by booking, creating that I need to send a requisition or a work order, if you will, to parking and transportation. Excuse me, room deposits and payments. So again, these can all be tailored to whatever it is you want, if you want it to trigger itself. So we talked about data glance being the kind of the default homepage whenever you log into Mazevo. Seeing my tasks here, and oh wait, wasn't accurate, didn't show only one, but so you can see what you have that's due today. But if you want to see ahead, you can go into the managed tasks. We created it so that the filter included everybody in our office. So anything that was assigned to anybody, not just myself, would show up in the list. So if there's something that, again, we can assist, if someone is really bogged down this month, we can pick up and kind of help each other in doing and following up with groups, so nothing again falls through the cracks. So that is all I've got.
Great, thanks, Christy. That was awesome. If anybody has any questions on what you've seen so far, go ahead and put them in the chat or just unmute yourself and you can ask them. I did see there's a question out here from Jane. She's asking if you allow students direct access to schedule spaces in Mazevo. It sounds like she's just trying to clarify. I think, Katie, you said something about events, something regarding event approval there. So you want to comment on that?
Yes. So Jane, thank you. The very good question. We do allow students to request our free meeting rooms through Mazevo. So we have that set up and have students set up as requesters for that. It is for our larger banquet spaces, our spaces that have rental fees and are more involved, that they're not able to reserve through Mazevo. However, for those more complicated events, students do work with our leadership and engagement office to get that event approved with catering and the student organization business office and risk management if necessary. So just a few other campus partners for those larger, more complicated events. Let me know if you have any follow-ups.
Great, thanks, Katie. I had a question too. How many people in your office actually use the tasks feature? Like just rough number, is it a lot of people or?
Pretty minimal at this point. Yeah. Yep. So Christy and I and our student employee, it's a kind of a work in progress to, you know, find that sweet spot of not being so busy to miss out on going through the tasks to make sure you don't miss anything, and knowing that it's important to use the tasks to keep track of where you're at with event things.
Yeah. I was kind of curious on, do you ever have to reassign tasks to other people very often, or is it usually like if it's yours, you just kind of stay with it unless something weird happens?
Don't typically reassign. Yeah, we'll just work with it and hope we're not too behind.
Okay. Great. Laura's asking if she could see where the manage task option is located, so you can see everybody, you know, all of your staff's tasks and everything. Christy, do you want to bring that up? Oh, you're muted there,
muted.
Christy.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, so under the events tab here at the top, manage tasks is close to the bottom of that drop down. So that's what it brings up.
Yep.
So you can reset, you can reset the filters. I have it set for, it was set for the month.
Yeah.
But, and then all descriptions, yeah, you can tailor all of that. And it works out really slick.
Nice.
Very easy.
And then Christy, that responsible user area, that's where you select where, so you can see every, you know, the folks that are assigned tasks. I see. Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Everybody who is in our department.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can just go through and click who you want to be able to see. So this includes our catering folks, our billing folks, business office. So I don't need to worry about them. So I just have our events folks checked. And so that just pulls up anything that we related specifically to our setup, AV, follow up on reservation specifics.
So there's a question in here from Eric. I'm not sure I'm following. So Eric, feel free to unmute yourself, but it's, can event or daily reporting feed triggers into the tasks for further handling? Eric, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I had to find my mute button. The Mazevo is supposed to have a reporting feature similar to 7 Points. And I was just wondering if people enter into 7 Points, if there are certain things that can be triggered. So it automatically, like if there's incidents in an event that would cause us to need to bill them for certain things, if that could also automatically create a trigger to feed it into the tasks so that that could be further investigated and or billed.
Yeah, currently there's no way for that to, we don't tie the operations information into tasks, but interesting idea if there was a way to have a button over there if a service worker is saying completing something, or there's an issue that they could put something in there and alert somebody on the other end. So, yeah. Okay.
I believe that Katie had mentioned this as a wish list item, but is there a way to have a task trigger if an event is generating any kind of revenue to create an invoice instead of having it only dependent on either the organization or the event type?
No, not
Okay.
right now, but so you're saying it's not really org type that you want to trigger. It would be the fact that there's any charge on the event. So rate plan really wouldn't work there either. If let's say we had a trigger by rate plan, because you might have a rate plan that's internal and you don't charge for rooms, but then all of a sudden you add catering, and now you'd want the task triggered.
Yes.
So, okay. Just another thing on the list with your name on it. So, okay. All right.
Eric had a
So-
follow-up question here about people in the office self-including themselves in the distribution of tasks in case somebody is filling in for someone else. Can they get the tasks that way? So does anybody have any advice there? Like if, you needed to see the tasks of the person that you're filling in for?
I think that manage tasks page would, as Christy showed, would probably be the best option for that, Eric, so that you can go in and even if you're not typically looking at the tasks for this person in your office on a certain day, if you are covering for them, you could change that responsible user to list the person that you might be looking at. Christy will walk through that.
So back in the, oops, not that one. Here I found that there was just one that had our student staff, and she's graduating in December, so we'll be dealing with that. So she only has herself listed, so we can actually go to that event. Or I could search under the managed tasks, I could just pull up her name and we could go into each of those. If I go into the event to see the task list, I'll see Mia here. And I can, oops, not that one. Still learning which one to
Here, hit
click
the checkbox.
Checkbox.
Yep. There we go.
And then you can.
And I could add Katie. Oops. Katie. And myself. To that one. So, which is a great reminder to do that, because like I said, she's going to be graduating in a couple weeks and we'll want to make sure we're following up on anything that maybe she has only had herself on the task as the responsible person. So
Hey, Christy,
great question.
if you click on your tab up there that goes back to manage tasks. Yeah, there you go. Now, just so you know, from right here, you can check one of these or check multiple, and
Okay.
you could have changed the responsible user from right here.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So you don't have to open the event to. So Eric, for your question is, you could filter manage tasks to an individual that me is out on vacation or sick. So you could come into manage tasks, filter for Mia's events, and maybe for today's events, her tasks, you could then reassign them or add somebody else to them from right here. So
You don't know what you don't know.
it's creature comforts.
Yep.
Any other questions out there? I'm curious too, is anybody thinking about using tasks now that maybe isn't currently? Has this kind of swayed anybody one way or the other? Put it in the chat or unmute yourself if you have a comment there. I see a thumbs up from Chris. That's good. So just curious if people are thinking about this, you know. All right, Wendy, any other common questions that come up related to tasks that you can think of?
Yes, today somebody said, hey, I want to send out surveys after my event. Is there a way to set up a way to remind me to do that? And who can share their screen? Christy, can you share your screen and we can walk through?
Yes.
If you can go to settings. So she set hers up under this way into settings and then tasks. And let's just, we won't finish adding it, but if you want to click on add. And then at the due date at the bottom, yeah, go ahead. So she wants to send it out 7 days after the first booking. To remind herself to do that. So just a little note there of the due date. And Rochelle just made a great plug for us in the chat.
You could set up a task there, or you could use our scheduled emails. If you had that survey already pre-built, you know, in a survey tool, you could actually just automatically send that through the email, scheduled emails. And you wouldn't even need a task. So.
Future connect subject.
There you go.
Please scheduled emails.
Right.
Scheduled emails, okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
Because I have a reminder in my Outlook to send. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't use it in. So this is a good use for us as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
We could volunteer Rochelle for that call since she made the
There you
suggestion.
go. Rochelle, you're on the hot seat there, so sorry about that. Excellent.
Katie, I had a question for you, and I think Joe from Minnesota, you might have asked this a while back, but triggering on multiple things. Can you give me a couple of examples of either one of you, how that may, you know, right now, the way the triggers work on tasks is it's by event type or it's by org type. And then just kind of, what are some other examples that I can, you know, get my head around there? So.
Sure. So something that I'm thinking of off the top of my head is that for all of our public customer reservations, there is some sort of room fee associated with it. So even in our small meeting rooms that are free for student organizations and departments to use. So if I wanted to make sure we had a task for a public organization type in a set of rooms under a certain room tag location, that would be to make sure that we're setting a payment reminder, payment task for ourselves to get that, you know. So I wouldn't want to do a trigger for a location of a meeting room because 2/3 of our customers that wouldn't apply to. Makes sense. We just want our money.
And Joe, is that, if you're available there, is that similar to what you needed on your end?
Yeah, I think that's a similar situation. I think we've had, Sarah and I were just discussing specifics, but I think we've wanted to kind of org type, location, I think they were mainly org type and event type in
Okay.
specific
Mixed with
location.
location, maybe. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right.
Okay. Well, let's see. Yeah, I see Rochelle said kind of the same thing there.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds like Colette's using the automatic email feature for surveys. That's great. So.
I have a question for Rochelle. Rochelle, when you get those surveys back, do you save them with the event as a document? Or what do you? She does. Good.
Okay, and Eric has there's one in there too. It sounds like location and service or service provider might be. She got in there. Okay, good. Well, if there aren't any other questions, we can go ahead and start to wrap things up. I'd like to first give a big round of applause to Christy and Katie. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Christy, Katie.
I know everybody's muted there, but yeah, I'm seeing some applause there. Great. Thank you guys. But yeah, thank you both for volunteering to share your knowledge and wisdom of tasks with the group. This has been great. And I think it was really, really nice of you all to do that. So yeah, with that said, if there aren't any other questions, we can go ahead and wrap it up. Dean, anything you want to say here before we sign off?
We're going to push up a new release in the morning, so there'll be some new nuggets in there.
Yep.
I think there's some names on the call here today. We've fixed a couple things that Cal State Northridge reported. There's something from Iowa with Jonna. I think you're on the call that we fixed with your BEO. And then let's see here. Let me pull up the list. Of course, this will be in the release notes tomorrow. Just teasing you right now. You're able to see when you go into the list of contacts, you'll be able to click a button and pull up all of their events and see those. For the folks at Minnesota, the heavy book users that actually add events from the book, you'll be able to add a new booking to an existing event. Rather, right now, every time you add a new booking from the book, it goes in, it creates a new event, but now you can pick an event ID to put it into. So that's coming. Let's see, what else have we got here? Let's see. When you create invoices, now there's a new filter where you can say, I only want to create invoices for external organizations. So you can filter the list before you create those invoices. Those are some of the bigger ones. So, but that'll go out early in the morning and then we'll start on the next round. So anyway, that's what we've got. So
There you go. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. We'll let everyone get on with their days here. So thank you all for attending, and look for a notice on, I'll send out the recording here soon, probably in the next day or two, and then look for a notice after the new year when everybody gets back. We'll be setting up another one of these. So thanks again, everybody.
thank you.